Let's get in more voices now. We are not going to do debates. There is no time today for blame games. There's just time to bring sanity back to the national discourse. I'm joined by Salman Khurshid, Congress leader, former Union Minister, and Najib Jung, former Lieutenant Governor of Delhi. Appreciate both of you joining us. Let's get first reactions from both of you. Salman Khurshid, you first.
Well, I've already stated this is shocking, this is unacceptable, this is heinous, this is gruesome, and I believe this is the betrayal of everything our nation stands for. Why it has happened is a deep exercise that we must all go into, reflect why violence is taking over our lives, why these divides are now turning into this kind of excruciating violence and betrayal of humanity. I think these are questions that cloud one's mind. But today, all I think that is important is with one voice to say, this is horrible. This is a betrayal of our nation, of humanity, and of everything that we cherish in our country. And I do believe that this is the time not really to find out who is and to apportion blame, but to say that everybody who has contributed to it is today standing in the dock, as far as I'm concerned, and completely and totally condemned and unacceptable.
Let me get first reactions also from you, Najib Jung, to what's happened, this Udaipur horror.
I am devastated. I am shocked. I am appalled. This is not the India that I grew up in. I would say that if blood be the price of this kind of free speech or action, then India has already overpaid. These people are not, and I repeat that, certainly not Muslims. This is not the message. I am not a classical practicing Muslim, but let me say that this is not the message of the Prophet, peace be upon him. This man who took the action of beheading starts by addressing us as Salam Alaikum. He does not know the meaning of Salam Alaikum, which means peace be upon you and barakat be upon you. If this is his concept of peace and barakat, then may God damn him forever. The law of the land should take immediate action. It should be salutary action. It should be demonstrable action, that this cannot be tolerated at all in any form, in any part of India, by any community. And I'm already hearing on television a political game going on, blame game going on. I'm sorry, this is not the time to blame politicians. This is not the time to blame the ruling party. This is not the time to blame the left or the right. This is the time that we have shown a resolve earlier to stand up and fight together. Because as the government said, fringe, I don't think this is a fringe. This fringe is gradually slipping out of our hands into the mainstream. We have to control them. I have no remedial suggestion to make, I'm afraid, because I think it requires a lot of deep thought on the part of all communities in India to sit down and talk peace. The world has seen peace coming out in very bitter situations. I don't see why this land of Nanak and Bulle Shah and Kabir cannot sit down together now and see the writing on the wall. Otherwise, we'll destroy ourselves. Thank you, Rajdeep.
I'll come back to you in a moment. I'm glad that you made the point. This is not a time to blame left or right, because the more we blame each other, we only end up scarring and further, in a way, dividing people at times. But Salman Khurshid, I still look for solutions. I know it's not easy, but are there any solutions out there to take forward what was just said by Najib Jung? You've got young people being indoctrinated, this climate of hate, of polarization, leading to violence. Do you see a solution?
Well, there has to be a solution. Humanity has to survive, and we must find a solution. That we don't see one today. We must find it with a sense of urgency. This cannot be a moment of defeat. This must be a moment of determination. I think that there can be nothing better that we can do for those who've lost their lives today and before, that there should be no loss of life again, but it'll have to be by starting an honest and genuine conversation between ourselves, everybody. That's why I said that not an individual alone, not a group alone, not a political party alone, but all of us today are against the wall, all of us are in the dock, and therefore we must begin at home where we are. We must begin a conversation. We must learn to trust. We must learn to accommodate. We must learn to suffer the pain of other people.
You're saying, sir, I'm sorry to, you're saying begin a conversation, but there will be those who will say that radicalized elements don't want this conversation.
No, but doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. They don't want the conversation. We have to be brave and determined. We must insist on that conversation, and we must believe that in the end humanity will prevail. So there are obviously dark spots, some toxic spots, and why the toxic spots have come where they have come, the sociologists will tell us, people who are closer to the ground will tell us, but at the end of the day, we have nothing else. You can't remove from amongst yourselves these black spots. You have to reform them, you have to change them. You have to learn and find a method by which you can communicate. It'll have to be done. It's a national conversation. It's not an individual conversation that will work. A national conversation must happen, and you in the media can play an enormously important role in that.
We'll talk about the media and its role on another day, because at times the media also becomes a platform in a sense for toxic hate to spread. But Najib Jung, are you as hopeful that these radical elements can be in a way challenged and they can be defeated? Because as you said, some of them are no longer fringe. These people who can take the impunity with which they've acted in Udaipur suggests that they don't see themselves as fringe.
I am not so hopeful as Salman Bhai seems to be. I think the genie is out of the bottle. To tame it or put it back is extremely difficult. So I'm not offering solutions. Of course, Salman Bhai said just the right thing, that we should have conversations. We should have conversations with everyone. But I think the speed of action under law must be expedited. I mean, these guys, if they're going to be in jail for 10 years and then be beheaded, it's no good. Punishment must be immediate, not the kind of punishment that Mr. Yogi is meting out at the moment. That's not the kind of punishment I mean. I mean punishment through law. Take them in, have a quick trial, and punish them very, very vigorously, whoever it may be. It's, you know, you can't get away with misbehavior in any country except us and South Asian countries the way we do, and that's why we treat law with such impunity. People have lost the fear of law. So conversation is one, and putting the fear of law in the mind of the persons, that you can't get away, you can't bully the police, you can't bully the judiciary, you can't take out a demonstration outside and say, all right, I'll be bailed out in 3 or 4 days. No. I think that law must be much more stringent, particularly on communalism, casteism, regionalism. Otherwise, we'll tear India apart.
You know, those are very strong words. In conclusion, therefore, Salman Khurshid, the larger message that comes in from what's happened today, do you see this as in a way a turning point, that people will, does the shock and horror of what has happened should awaken people to a certain reality?
Well, I sincerely hope so. I do realize that we are becoming shock-proof. I mean, things get from bad to worse, and we walk away. But I think time has come. This is about you and me and our children. This is about our whole country. This is everything that we have loved. Everything is today in peril of destruction. So if we do not act now, we do not act this moment, we would have lost the game completely and utterly. So once again, deeply saddened by what has happened today. And our our homage to the person who lost his life in a manner which is completely unacceptable. And we do sincerely hope and pray that this cost and price will not have to be paid constantly again and again.
Let me get a word in from you, final word from you also, Najib Jung. As I said, what is the way forward?
I think at the end of the day, like I said, let's talk amongst ourselves. Let the government start a dialogue between the leaders of the two communities straight away. Let the message go out from the government of the day that we have paid a very heavy price. We can't afford to tear India apart. Whatever the price it is, let's sit and talk now. Let's talk to the right, let's talk to the left, let's talk to the madrasas. This influence of the ISIS or the other radical organizations have to be bayed in their den. If we sit back and we wait for things to happen, things will get worse. So time to act is now. We can't wait a moment, and maybe this event will turn out for the good, that we've all seen what's ahead of us.
You know, those are all very strong words from both of you, and in a way, words that hopefully will echo, because this is, as I said, not a moment for shrill, loud, polarized debate. This is a moment when we need to all stand together and condemn what has happened unequivocally, no ifs and buts in this conversation on this issue. It's just horrific what's happened, and I appreciate therefore Salman Khurshid, Najib Jung, for your words. Let's for once get out of the political blame game and start ensuring that we can end this cycle of hate. Our reporters are there on the ground. Remember, those who are responsible have been arrested. They were trying to avoid the police. They have been arrested though, and therefore there is some hope. The images that are coming in from the ground suggest that the situation is slowly being brought under control. Section 144 has been imposed in the area, and that's the hope that as a result of that, the situation will be slowly brought under control. We are told Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot is also holding a high-level meeting at the moment, and there with the security officials. Remember, Rajasthan in recent times has witnessed communal violence that has put pressure on the Chief Minister to act swiftly in cases like this. So clearly, the government also needs to ensure, Rajasthan government responsible for law and order needs to ensure that this incident does not spiral out of control. So that's the hope on the ground that let's go to Dev Ankur Vadavan, our correspondent who's joining me at the moment. He's on the way to Udaipur. Dev Ankur, as I just said, we've been told that both the people have been arrested, detained, Section 144 in Udaipur or in different parts of Rajasthan at the moment.
Well, Rajdeep, the Rajasthan government led by Ashok Gehlot has mentioned that the internet ban has been imposed in the entire Jaipur division, Ajmer division, as well as Udaipur division. Apart from that, Section 144 has been imposed in the entire state. Right now, the situation continues to be tense in Udaipur district. The police has resorted to mild lathi charge after there were several protests that were carried out today in Udaipur division after the heinous killing of Kanhaiya Lal. The police has mentioned that the accused were trying to flee from Bhim in Rajsamand in Rajasthan, and Rajasthan Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot has come forward and mentioned that this kind of an act will not be tolerated. Rajdeep, you will remember that in the past, when there were several communal incidents this year, whether it be in Karoli, in Bhilwara or in Jodhpur, the Chief Minister had mentioned that in none of the cases anyone was killed. But in this particular case, a person has been heinously murdered, gruesomely murdered, and in the manner that he was killed in front of the camera. That seems to be the case of someone trying to send out a chilling message. And if the law and order...
Do we know where, Devanku, do we know more details about these two individuals? What is their background?
Well, so far, Rajdeep, the information that we have is that they hail from Rajasthan, that they had sent out a chilling threat earlier on the 18th of June to Kanhaiya Lal after his son had posted reportedly a photo in which he tried to support Nupur Sharma, the former BJP spokesperson, and thereafter Kanhaiya Lal had complained to the police mentioning that there is a threat to his life. The police allegedly, Rajdeep, did not act on that threat, and thereafter, these two men barged into the shop on the pretext of getting clothes stitched. And once they were there, one of the persons switched on the camera, and the other person took this person and brutally murdered him. The other person kept on filming the entire act.
And where was
while
and there was no one around. You're saying to me that these people had threatened Kanhaiya Lal earlier, but the police did not take those threats easily, provided no security around the tailor shop. Am I correct?
Absolutely, and Rajdeep, this particular shop in which the incident was carried out, what we are given to understand is that it's in the midst of a market. There were several shopkeepers who were there at that point in time, and Kanhaiya Lal had earlier mentioned that there is a threat and to his life, that a threat has been made after a photo was posted on the social media by his son, in which he purportedly supported Nupur Sharma after the comments that she had made on a particular TV channel, and the police did not allegedly act in time, and thereafter Kanhaiya Lal.
Come back to you, Devankur, in a moment, but I just want to go to R.P. Singh, BJP spokesperson, also joining us. R.P. Singh, your first comments on this terrible horror of Udaipur.
Well, this is a ghastly act, and this clearly shows the utter failure of the state government as far as law and order concerned. The man who has been killed went to the police, filed a complaint, and said that he's under threat. And the people who were killed have openly put a video on record that they killed a man. And even after that, this happens. And it's not the first instance. Earlier also, what happened in Karoli, the key accused is still absconding, and the police is not able to pick him up. The issue is that state government, the state machinery has totally collapsed as far as law order go. And then I'm stating that the chief minister should resign, because I never in my life seen something like this.
No, is that the official demand? Is that the official BJP demand now, that Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot should resign over this instance?
Sir, you should also demand it. I mean, do you think any chief minister, you do so much of panel discussions, do you think any chief minister should continue with what happened now? I mean, man has openly come on record on Facebook and said that I'm going to kill and so. And thereafter, the person who has been killed goes to the police, says that I need security. And for what? For just making a Facebook post. And it's all happening because state government is outrightly going and appeasing certain community for vote bank politics. Now, why can't they take a strict action against people who are openly, blatantly breaking the law and then going to this extent of butchering people?
So you're saying that the Ashok Gehlot government has failed to control law and order. The Chief Minister is the Home Minister of the state and therefore must take moral responsibility for what has happened. He must resign. Am I correct?
Yes. And he has no right to continue as a Chief Minister with this instance that has happened now in Udaipur, and was happening even now in Udaipur after the instance. I've been told there's a total collapse of law and order, and shops are being burned, and then there's shops are being looted in Udaipur.
I think we should be a little bit conscious of that. We are being told that the situation has been brought under, because we don't want to spread panic. The situation has been brought under control at the moment. Both the people have been detained. Section 144 is in place.
Rajdeep, Section 144 was in place in Karoli also. The government didn't allow a particular community to put their flags, whereas other community came and tore away the flags. And then what happened thereafter, we all know that. So it's not happening for the first time. It's ongoingly happening for last almost 3 months since the Ram Navami days, since the procession of Ram Navami happened in Karoli. So, I mean, you can say that situation under control. I appreciate. Ask your correspondent to go on ground and tell what is the situation. How there is fire protests happening, how tires are being burnt, how there is arrest happening in the district, in the state.
Let me just ask one final question, Mr. Singh. There will be those who are worried that this country has got into a spiral of communal hatred, where one community, and the other are engaged in this sort of constant spiral of religious hatred. Does that worry you today? Do you believe who's going to put a stop to it? Should the politicians put a stop to it? Should civil society? Who's going to put a stop? These social media posts, Facebook, TV debates, political speeches, all of them attack. One community targets the other all the time almost. So so-called fringe in both communities is getting more and more radicalized. Does that worry you, sir?
It has to start with you and me, both of us. And then when I say you and me, when we support certain stone pelters, you and me support certain stone pelters, and we condemn other stone pelters. It's not going to happen. It's not going to work that way. I mean, if you're condemning Nupur Sharma or anyone else, you should equally condemn Zubair also. But you can't say that a man is you can talk about his freedom of speech and all that. On the other hand, so you are drawing parallels which are not right. And then please be fair on this. I'm requesting you, as a journalist, be fair on this and be brave enough to condemn whatever is wrong.
No, I think no Indian citizen today would justify violence. As I said right at the very outset, this is not a day for ifs and buts, Mr. R.P. Singh. I share your sentiments when it comes to your desire to ensure that anyone who resorts to any form of religious hatred must be condemned by one and all, must be isolated, must be identified, named and shamed. I appreciate your joining us, Mr. R.P. Singh. Thank you very much. Those are images that we are getting at the moment, as I said, from Udaipur. Devankur Vadhavan was with us a short while ago, and he said that the police is slowly but surely getting that situation in Udaipur under control. Those are the images that we are getting where the alleged killers have been nabbed. It was a chase before they were finally caught there in Udaipur today. Let's turn to my take on this issue. Some issues, my friends, are beyond debate. The Udaipur horror is one such issue that must be condemned by one and all without any ifs and buts. The culprits must receive swift and exemplary punishment, and the Rajasthan government must ensure it right away. Meanwhile, let's just all come together as a people to tone down this spiral of religious hatred across politics and civil society. Let's all say in one voice, say no to hate.